All right. All right. So then we will start. So we're going to focus on the hips. Let's stay seated today for this first part. And you'll reach your arms up. Take a side bend, left hand down, right arm overhead. You'll just take a nice big side opener here, looking up under your armpit. And then you'll sweep your arm out in front. And then we'll take it to the other side. You'll take your right hand down, take your left arm over your head, and just push the ground away. Look up under that armpit. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, sweep it forward. And then you'll have one shin in front of the other. We're going to fold forward. So rounding in, letting your head get heavy, letting your hips get heavy, feeling your back open. And then we'll walk our hands back in, and then you'll take your fingertips behind you on the floor, and you can just stay here leaning back, lifting the heart. If you want to take it a step further, I'm going to move this. If you want to take it a step further, you can push into your fingertips, push into your legs, lift your hips up. And then lower back down. And then we'll change the other leg in front. It'll be the awkward direction. So the other leg on top. We'll do that one more time. Taking the right hand down, side bending over. Nice big stretch. And then reaching the arm forward, folding forward. And then sweep it all the way around, side bending the other direction, getting that nice big stretch. And then you'll come back up, and then we'll reach the arms forward, fold over your legs, crawl the hands forward, let your head hang down, feel your back open. And then slowly walk your hands in, sitting up. You'll take your fingertips behind you on the floor, lift the chest, stay here, or push into your legs, lift your hips up, and we'll lower it down. All right, so let's get into the heart. So we'll take a moment to come to tabletop. We'll get into the back of the heart and then the front of the heart. So I invite you to pad your knees if you need that for kneeling. We're going to spread our fingertips wide, knees about hip width apart. We'll take some slow cat-cows. Let your tailbone lift up to the sky, lift the eyes, lift the tail, widen across your sitting bones, your chest. And as you exhale, curl the tailbone under around your spine. We'll do that 3 more times, just moving like you, moving at your own pace. You can gently sway your body side to side if that feels good as well, or just spending this first part of class, then moving some energy, opening up a bit, and then we'll settle into stillness. Last one. And then we'll come back to center. We're going to take the left hand in the middle of the mat, take your right arm up to the ceiling, really push the ground away to open up. Inhale, reach your heart up, and as you exhale, twist. Take your right arm across your mat, right shoulder and temple onto the floor, hips will be high here. You can take your left hand, leave it on the mat, or take it all the way long to the front of the mat. You can even hook your hand behind your low back if you like that. Then notice if your hips are swaying to one side, recenter both hips evenly over your knees. We'll take one more breath here. And then as you exhale, press into your left palm. You'll come back to the center and you can just gently move your body around just to unwind, let that energy flow through you. And then we'll do the other side. Well, this time take your right hand in the middle, take your left arm up, reach up to the sky, take a big breath in. And as you exhale, weave your left arm across your mat, back of the left shoulder and temple goes onto the floor. Your right hand can press into it and help you twist, or you can lengthen your top arm long up the mat. The hips are swaying over to one side. See if you can re-center your hips again. And take a few moments here to find the ground and find the breath. Let the breath deepen. Breathing behind that left shoulder blade even. Take our final 3 breaths here. We'll slide that right hand back in, press yourselves back up. And then however you want to move and groove, just to get yourself to reset before we move on, maybe cat-cow or side-to-side movements. We're gonna lie on our belly for our Sphinx pose next. You can put your hips on the blanket if you like that. Otherwise, you can move your blanket out of the way. So we'll take our forearms to the ground and tuck all 10 toes under on the floor. So first we're going to push into our toes and sort of wiggle our thighs back towards the back of the mat. You're getting that a little more space in the front of the hip. And then you can untuck your toes once you can't lengthen back any further. Feet can go hip width or even wider than hip width for a little low back support here. And then you can either stay right where you are with your elbows, or you can walk them a little further up the mat to reduce the compression in the low back. So we do want to gently compress the low back, and it's up to you how much. So if you have your elbows directly under your shoulder line, it's going to be a lot more compression than if your elbows are a little bit forward of your shoulder line. You can have your palms together or on the floor, but roll your shoulders up, around, and down away from your ears. Lift the base of your skull up. At the same time, relaxing your belly, your glutes, your legs, your feet. We'll stay right here. Then notice any part of your lower half. Notice if it's clenching or engaging. You want to take this time to let that soften. Meanwhile, the arms and the spinal muscles are a bit engaged. You can either stay here, or I'm going to offer a neck stretch you can take. So staying in your Sphinx, keep your arms engaged. Then at the same time you're engaging your arms, draw your chin down to your chest. Roll your chin over to your right shoulder, look behind that right shoulder. Drop your chin down to your chest, roll it over to your left shoulder and look behind you. Don't do that. 3 more rounds. Creating a little more movement, a little more range in that neck rotation. When you drop your chin to your chest, it's an opportunity for the back of the neck to find length. One more each side. And once you've done an even amount, lift your head over your spine, take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, widen your elbows apart, lower all the way down to your belly. You can have one cheek resting on stacked hands here. You can release your low back by bending your right knee out to the right and just letting your low back soften. And we'll take one more breath here. And then we'll go ahead and transition. We're going to take a moment to open up the side of our rib cage in a few different ways. If you happen to have a foam roller at home, we'll be using that. If you don't have a foam roller, you could use a yoga block instead, or you could roll up a blanket, and that can be your massage tool. So we're using a prop as a massage tool for our side ribs. So something like this, or a foam roller. So we'll sit up and we're going to roll the side of the rib cage. So below the armpit, above the waist, you have those side ribs. Anywhere along those side ribs, we are going to explore. So often, especially if you're using a harder prop, can feel very confronting. So go slow, or maybe even stay still if you come up on a sore spot. Hang out here for a few moments, breathe it out, and then move to the next spot. If it makes sense to move, if it feels all right for you, you'll keep your prop where it is, and you're going to rock forward and back over the prop. And you feel free to move the foam roller up an inch, down an inch from where you started. And as you explore the side of your ribs, notice the back part of your ribs. If you lean to the back, there's usually a muscle attachment right below your shoulder blade, just at the bottom. That's your lat attachment. And it's part of a very large muscle on your back. And when you roll over it, you'll know, because it feels kind of ropey, kind of like you're rolling over a muscle. So we'll take about 4 more breaths here before we move on. Feeling that part of the body. All right, we'll let that be our last breath. Let's take a moment to sit up and regroup. And so when you sit up, I've been experimenting lately with taking my fingers to my shoulders and then circling the arms a few times and just noticing the difference between, the right and left shoulder joint. There might be a little more freedom in the side that you worked out. You can go the other way a few times. I think it's interesting to feel how it's all so interwoven, right? We'll go to the other side, so moving the prop over and then laying your side ribs just below the armpit, or it could be kind of very below the armpit, as long as we're still on the ribs, right? So not into the waist, but somewhere on those bony landmarks of the ribs. And you can either stay and breathe, settle in, do support your head with your hand, Or you can start to rock forward and back, anywhere you like. So it could be higher, lower from where you started. You might notice one side is vastly different than the other side. So I'm noticing this is my way tighter side. And so that's important to notice. And when you can, give that area a bit more attention, like as you have a regular routine. Whew. And also checking in with the back part of your rib cage when you lean back, really noticing the bottom of the shoulder blade, that ropey muscle, feel into that. Ooh. We'll take about 4 more breaths here as well. And this will be your last breath. And then we'll do that visiting again, sitting up like before, and then taking a moment to check in. So if you took your fingertips on your shoulders and circled, you'll do that again as well. And just notice what opened up, what the feeling is after all that brief, really a brief time we were there on the foam roller. Okay, so let's stay seated, and you will use a strap if you have one. If you don't have a strap, I'll show you how you can do this without a strap. So first of all, you'll grab your strap about as wide, about as long as, we'll say 3 feet or so. And you could always change it up as you go. So we're gonna have straight arms, shoulders down, wrists straight. So we don't bend at our wrist to accommodate moving this strap. But you're going to take the strap behind your body all the way to the floor, and then you'll take it up to the ceiling and bring it forward and down. Now, if you want it to be tighter, it's going to be more challenging of a stretch for your chest. If that feels too challenging, then make the distance between your hands a little bit wider. So we're going to take about 4 more of these here. If you don't have a strap, what you'll do, I like to extend 2 fingers for whatever reason. It just seems to work. And you would take your arms up, around, and back, and then try to keep the wrists straight, fingers pointing down and back. So it's the same sort of feeling of flossing the shoulders, opening the chest. With the band, the benefit of the band is you get to tear it apart the whole time, and that makes it a lot more intense on opening the chest. Let's take 2 more of these. Ooh. And last one. And then find one spot within this range that feels like a really nice stretch, like you want to stay there for a bit. So maybe not the most intense, but intense enough to where it feels really good, like you want to hang out and let some things open up. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And last breath. Woo, okay, so we got our chest open. We're going to go back to opening our sides. The reason why we're going to spend some time really working our sides and opening the chest is it's going to help us with twisting and other things, back bending even. So side Sphinx is my new favorite pose because it's just a lot of sensation and you don't have to be there very long to get a lot of results, a lot of release. So you will lie on your side, so perhaps your left hip. Your legs can be slightly out in front. That makes it more like a kickstand. It keeps you from falling forward. If you were all the way back, you might kind of roll onto your belly. So that little diagonal, I think, helps. And then just like the Sphinx we did on our belly, your elbow, if it's right under the shoulder, that might feel great, but it's going to give you more compression. If you need a little less compression on that waist, you can inch your elbow up your mat and it can decrease it a little bit, okay? Now, what's unique about this pose is you're actually encouraged to shrug your shoulder up around your ear. And the reason why is you get to have this nice long stretch through your side. So you could, if you'd rather not, if you're working more on shoulder stability, you can do shoulder stability work instead. But the yin pose is this lengthening this connective tissue in the waist. Now, this is level 1 or option 1. There is a deeper version beyond this. It would be where you come up onto your palms, okay? So it's much deeper. You would lift up onto your hands and you would shrug your shoulder and just hang out here. So again, you're opening the side of the waist. I prefer the fingers to point up to the front of the mat for this. So make sure you're being careful on your wrist, and then the other hand can just be there as a little extra support. So we'll stay here for a little bit longer, whatever version you choose. I want to breathe down into that waist that's getting a stretch. Feel that expansion. And then notice if there's any part of your waist or your belly holding on, gripping, trying to hold you in place. Can you let that soften? We'll be here for 10 more breaths. Take one more breath together. Inhale fully. Exhale fully. And then from here, I invite you to sit up before we go to the other side. Just regroup for a moment. So if you like, you can continue to move, bend elbows around, or if you want to take a side bend to one side and a side bend to the other side, kind of feel the difference. I think that's a really cool way to kind of check in with what you just shifted in your body. And then we'll do the other side. So starting off, whatever you did on the first side, I would recommend doing that again, but I want to show you both options. So you're lying on your side, elbow can be under your wrist, legs slightly in front, so there's a little crease at your hips. You could have your shoulder down away from your ear, more active pose, or the more passive yin pose would be shoulder up by your ear. And I like the elbow right under the shoulder here. Notice if you feel a sufficient amount of stretch in your waist, maybe you stay here if you did on the first side. Maybe you move to the next version where you come up onto your hand. Your fingertips will point to the front of the mat and your other hand can serve as a support. And then instead of moving your shoulder away from your ear, you'll actually hike your shoulder up around your ear. So you'll feel a big stretch from the outer hip, ribs all the way up into the armpit. And this will be where we stay for quite a few moments. And just noticing. So you might feel a little bit of that reflection when we opened up our side ribs initially. Maybe one side was tighter than the other. It might be showing up here as well. Noticing that. And then breathing space into that area that feels stretched or constricted. be here for about 10 more breaths as well. So see if you can let all your muscles and tissue relax away from your bones in these last few moments. We'll take a final breath, inhale fully. As you exhale, you can press yourself up to have it one more seat. And if you can check in however you did before, maybe you did a little side to side just to notice there's a clearing now. Oh, I love that feeling. We're going to do a seated twist next, and I recommend sitting on a blanket if you have tight hips today. I'm going to gather that. So when our sides are open, it makes life easier to do a spinal twist. That's what we'll do seated next. So you're going to sit how I am. You're going to have your left knee bent, pointed up to the ceiling, and your right knee just kind of down. So if you were sitting cross-legged, you would lift your left knee up from cross-legged. You're going to, or sorry, right leg. I like to mirror you guys. So we'll say that this is your right leg. And then you can take it across to the outside of your bottom leg. So you're seated here. Now we need this right sitting bone more grounded than it already is. So you're going to slide your bottom foot away from that glute. And then you're going to push into the floor, lift your hips up, and migrate just a little bit to your right. So it looks like that. Yeah, and so we have our sitting bones, both of them heavy now. Interlace your fingers at the webbing, pull on your shin, and then try to pull your shin up so you're getting really, really tall. And so you have the choice to do an open twist or a closed twist. Open twist, you take your left hand behind you and look behind your left shoulder. Closed twist, you take your right hand behind you and look behind your right shoulder. Whichever one you want to do here, whichever feels more intuitive, do that version. We'll just take a few moments to settle in, letting your sitting bones get heavy, letting your spine get long. We'll untwist. We're only here briefly because we're going to hold our next yin pose for a little longer, this next pose. We're going to take shoelace pose. So right now you have your foot on the floor, your knee pointed up to the ceiling. We're going to lay our legs more flat. So this will require you to crawl your bottom leg back towards your outer hip. And you'll also kind of slide your top leg back. So your feet are more now towards your outer hips. I don't really know why they call this shoelace. Does this look like a shoelace? I don't know. So, but this is the pose. So now that we're here, check in with yourself. We're going to be here for a little bit. This might be big enough sensation. And if it's too much sensation, I recommend sitting on an even taller prop than you already are. If you want more sensation, you're welcome to start to shift forward over your legs. So it's almost like as you shift forward, you're bringing your butt back and your spine is long and you're hinging from your hips and you're shifting forward. And then once you can't shift anymore forward with a flat back, then you'll round your body a bit over your legs. But please dial it back if all that's too intense. We're going to be here for the long haul. We'll be here for a couple of minutes. So you have time to let this sensation sort of transmute and shift, and then you can respond to that shift by maybe inclining forward if you need to. Notice if your jaw is starting to clench up. Notice if your shoulders feel tense. When we soften some of that out, let your neck and jaw become more relaxed. And we can take bigger, slower breaths to help guide us into more of a grounded state here. We got one more minute here. Feel free to make any adjustments you might need. We'll take our last 5 breaths here. We'll take one more breath, inhale. And as you exhale, take your time unwinding those legs. You can stretch your legs long or bend your knees. You could pause here in stillness or kind of move your legs around. Just checking in with what all that sensation that got kind of bubbled up to the surface, feel it move out of your legs, out of your body. All right, and then we'll do the other side. So we started with that twist. So how you can start is just in a cross-legged seat, assuming you're still on your prop, or you might start seated on a prop and then transition off your prop for the second side. We're going to take our left knee and bend it so the knee points up to the ceiling. And then you're going to bring your right leg kind of inch it forward and then take that left foot to the outside of your bottom leg. And then often the sitting bone will be disconnected from the floor. So we do want to inch our body a little bit to the left. And so you have to slide your bottom foot away from that glute, pick up your hips, and just do a little small adjustment. And you might have to move your prop as well. But all right, we'll interlace the fingers, pull up on your shin to get some height through your spine. And then you can either do an open twist, which means taking your right hand behind you and then twisting kind of away from your legs. Or a closed twist, holding the knee with your hand Left hand behind you, twisting towards your legs. So choose the version that works for you. We'll be here for just a little bit of time. This is a bit active. We're reaching up through the crown of the head. We're lengthening our spine, twisting the navel towards the back of the room. And we'll take a few more breaths here. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, you'll unwind, and now we'll morph it into our shoelace pose. So for shoelace pose, we actually want to lay our top leg over our bottom leg, but we have to move both legs to get them to more stack, more like one knee over the other knee, or at least in that direction. So you have to grab your top leg and just kind of pull it across your body. Your bottom knee, you'll have to travel the leg a bit across your midline. So you have knee over knee. And then from here, check in. This could be a very different experience on this side. So feel free to put a prop, more props, taller props under your sitting bones to make this more sustainable if it's already feeling really intense. Or just stay upright as you are and then breathe through the sensations. If you need more sensation at any time, we're going to be here for a bit. So you'll have time to transition deeper as needed, but start to crawl forward and then round in. Any amount you choose. We'll be here for a few minutes. About 1 more minute left, so feel free to make any adjustments you need for this final half of this pose. We'll take 10 more breaths here. And we'll just take our time coming out. I don't know about you, but that was intense for me. Just let it all go. Take a moment to feel the after effect, feel the energy moving through your legs, maybe out of your feet even. Feel that space that pose created internally. All right, and we will shift onto our back, and we're going to do something today with the foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, you can do it without the foam roller. So we're going to actually lay on the foam roller next, long ways. So you'll have it vertical in the center of your mat, and the tailbone will be at the very end. The whole spine will be on the foam roller. The head will be at the other end. Really important you have tailbone and head on. And again, if you don't have a foam roller, just lie flat on your back on the mat. And we're all going to bend our knees and have the soles of the feet on the floor. And so the reason you might choose to do this on a foam roller is, if you have one, is it broadens, it sort of opens your torso up. It opens your chest, it opens the front of your pelvis, creates a little more space just by resting over this sort of log-like shape under your back, right? We're going to do shoulder work here. So you'll take your arms straight up to the ceiling, palms face one another. And then from here, reach your hands as high as you can to the ceiling, shrug your shoulders up to the sky, inhale. And then as you exhale, lower your shoulders down around your foam roller, or if you're on the floor, lower your shoulders back down to the floor. So we'll do that again. Pick your shoulders up away from the floor as you reach up to the sky. And then lower the shoulders down to the floor. We'll do this about 4 or 5 more times, gradually increasing this range. And you might experience this feeling of knots, muscular knots around the shoulder joint or the shoulder blade. That's totally normal. We're kind of working it out through some mobility work. Let's do 2 more, lifting and lowering. And again, lift and lower. And then you'll take your arms back behind you. We'll start to make big sweeping circles. Sweep the arms out to the sides of the room, and then all the way down to the legs, and then through the center again. We'll do about 5 circles each direction. It's up to you how big and broad you want your circles. So the bigger the circle, the more it's going to ask of your shoulder joint and to open your chest, right? And the little smaller the circle, the easier it'll be on the shoulder and chest. So if you're feeling a little clench there today, or feels a little grippy, you want to back off from really, really big movements. Let's do 1 more this way. It's kind of like you're doing a backstroke, right? Although we are going to go the opposite direction now. So you'll sweep your arms back and then sweep the arms in the air and forward and down and then out to the sides. And we'll do 3 more of these. And 2. There might be all kinds of pops you're hearing in the shoulder joint. That's another really normal thing to experience here. So nothing to worry about if you hear that. Let's do 1 more thing while we're here. Let's take our arms up, and the arms are going to do opposite things. You're going to take your right arm back by your ear, left arm down by your leg, and then you'll switch. You just do this a few more times. But can you do this and keep your shoulders down away from your ears? So the neck is long. Can you also gather your ribs together and down? So in other words, we're not
splaying the ribs open or flaring the ribs open, but we're keeping our rib cage down and contained here. Let's take 2 more. And last one. All right, if you're on a foam roller, we're going to lie all the way to the side off the foam roller. And you can use your foam roller or any other prop that'll give you a little bit of height for your hips. We're going to take waterfall pose before we rest. So if you are, grab your prop or grab your foam roller, press your feet into the floor, bridge your hips up, and then take that foam roller right under the back of your pelvis, or specifically the sacrum, that little triangle bone that is at the back of your hips. And then you'll pick your legs up. Now, you're welcome to take a yoga block instead. That would go on the lowest, widest setting under your sacrum. You could also take a few blankets or a few pillows, stack them, and prop them under your hips. I want it to feel effortless to be here. So generally, the bulkier the prop, the easier it is to be here. Right? So we don't want a little pancake pillow barely lifting our hips up. That's not going to feel very supportive. And they call this waterfall pose, as you can imagine the kind of this current of energy moving down your legs into your internal organs. So this one's very good for the nourishing the internal organs, the digestive system. So notice that current of energy moving down your legs here. Letting your legs unclench, your feet relax, your toes relax, your glutes soften, back of your pelvis broadens, front of your hips open. And then we'll go ahead and one at a time, bend the knee, set the foot on the ground, bend the other knee, set the foot on the ground, and then take a pause in supported bridge pose before we transition out all together. And then push into your feet, lift your hips off your prop, slowly lower your spine down. And then we'll make our way into our final pose, Shavasana. You're welcome to hug your knees in and rock. And then finding your prop, perhaps for your head, maybe a prop behind your knees. We'll take just a moment to rest here. Close your eyes, release your breath, focus, and just allow yourself to be breathed, to be held. Shavasana.
start to slowly make your way into transitioning from rest to transitioning yourself up to a seat in the next few moments. And as you pick yourself up, feel your spine long, feel your sitting bones connected to the ground. Just take a moment to feel into your internal body, notice what opened up, what might have kind of expanded out. We'll gather our hands to the heart and bow the thinking mind to the caring heart. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share your practice. It is truly an honor to serve you. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace.